The fate of the Khandala, like dung beetles burdened with filth, like maggots in a latrine pit, foul-smelling and unclean, despised by all, cast out by society. They do the lowest of tasks, scooping sludge from sewers, scrubbing latrines, washing filthy, defiled things, cleaning corners of houses and kitchen nooks, scouring pots and pans, carrying water and hauling excrement, herding goats and cattle. They sleep exposed among animal pens, with no blanket, no mat, accustomed to mosquitoes and ants, accustomed to dirt, sand, and dust. They receive curses and beatings, endure torture and lashes. They are the property of masters, to be used at will, as footrests, as bodies to lie upon, as objects to relieve lust. They are traded like merchandise, chosen by hips, by breasts, by firmness, by muscle. There is even the right to kill them, for they are not considered human, but pigs, dogs, cows, buffaloes, tools of production, instruments of service, slaves for life. They sweat blood and tears, eat leftovers and dregs, live with sickness and disease, boils and festering sores. When they die, they are thrown onto bone fields, flesh and bone decay and scatter. The four elements return to the four elements, leaving only emptiness, pain, and humiliation, leaving only emptiness. Their cries do not reach the heavens. Their moans do not touch the earth. Even God turns away, unfeeling and unaware, abandoning his own descendants, cruel and merciless, leaving the world to perish on its own. This 5-syllable verse poem is a stark portrayal of the fate of the poorest, most degraded, and most unfortunate class in Indian society during the time of the Buddha. They were expelled from the 4 castes and called Khandala. They lived crawling like worms and maggots in ditches and sewers, in tattered huts, dark as fox dens or rat holes, always segregated from the other castes. Some of these outcast people lived as lifelong slaves in production camps of all kinds, animal husbandry, farming, or in the households of great and small masters, merchants, minor and major wealthy families, Brahmins, and nobles. The young woman named Punnika, spoken of here, belonged to that class of outcasts, the Khandala. Yet she was granted 5 fortunes, blessings greater than those of other girls of the same status. First, she had received some education. She possessed learning, knowledge, and understanding. Second, she had beauty, not surpassing others, yet gentle, graceful, and quietly radiant among them. Third, she was fortunate enough to be a slave in the great household of the merchant Anathapindika, a devoted lay disciple of the Buddha, a man rich in faith and compassion. Fourth, she had proper food and shelter, sufficient clothing, and never lacked daily sustenance. Fifth, she was assigned a task considered the lightest of all, carrying water. And yet, she was unhappy. She felt resentment, frustration, weariness, aversion, and bitterness. She longed to break free from the chains, to shatter the iron cage and step into the outer world, to breathe the pure, cool air of freedom. The merchant Anathapindika treated servants and slaves with great fairness and kindness. He encouraged everyone to live gently, to observe the 5 precepts and the 8 precepts on observance days. Whoever could do so, he rewarded with a benevolent smile, along with rice, money, cloth, mosquito nets, blankets, and garments. If he saw someone capable, sincere, honest, and diligent over a period of time, he was willing to abolish their life of slavery entirely. Whether they wished to renounce the world and follow the Buddha, or to marry and live as householders, he would gladly help, providing them with work and livelihood as free human beings. Knowing this, Punnika constantly strove to be diligent and hardworking in her task of carrying water, and she even took it upon herself to do duties beyond what was required of her. Yet despite her competence, it seemed that no one truly liked her, because her face always tilted upward, as if looking down on the world, because the way she spoke constantly seemed to display her own understanding, because her back was held so rigidly upright that it made others feel she was always posturing, because her smile was never natural or innocent, but rather tinged with sarcasm and arrogance, because her voice left people with a taste sour as vinegar, bitter as soapberry fruit. Yes, there was no doubt about it. She was far too proud, far too conceited. Her pride and conceit showed everywhere, in social interactions, in conversation, in her work, when walking outside, even in the corner of the kitchen. So much so that even the way she carried water irritated everyone, as if it proclaimed, "Yes, this is my job. Yes, I am a slave. Yes, this is who I am." Though a slave, she never avoided or stepped aside for members of other castes. When she had to speak with them, she referred to herself plainly as I, and spoke as an equal, without fear. She showed reverence only to the Buddha, to the monks and nuns of the Sangha, and to her masters, the household of Anathapindika. As for kings, Brahmins, generals, nobles, great merchants, or minor wealthy men, she looked upon them with disdain, unwilling to bow or humble herself in the slightest. Punnika knew this well, yet the painful truth was that although she knew it, she could not change herself. That pride and conceit lay dormant deep within the current of her karma, shaping her nature and character so profoundly that it had become ingrained. She could not learn the humility, gentleness, restraint, generosity, or compassion of her master, Anathapindika. At times, she felt ashamed of herself. She disliked herself, even despised herself. But when morning came, habit returned as habit always does. Nothing changed. That pride and conceit were like a hidden force, drawing her along, acting upon her body, her speech, and her mind. One cold winter day, she went out again to carry water as usual, trip after trip. When she lowered her jar into the stream, her hands went numb with cold, as if frozen solid. She heard a splashing sound. Glancing into the distance, she saw a Brahmin man, his face and body darkened and purplish from the cold, bathing and scrubbing himself in the icy water. She thought to herself, washing away sin. How utterly foolish a belief. Is that ascetic's mind made of clay? Is it hardened with thick, stagnant ignorance, sealed and preserved through generations, so that thought and understanding can no longer move or stir? How pitiful. After lifting the water jar onto the bank, she straightened her back, turned toward the ascetic, raised her face to the sky, and called out loudly, "Ah, I plunge my hands into this freezing water and suffer because it is my job, because of my status as a slave, because I fear being scolded, punished, or beaten by my master. But you, what is your reason? What are you afraid of? Who scolds you? Who punishes you? Who beats you that you must endure such misery, turning blue in this terribly icy water? O Brahmin?" That Brahmin's name was Sathya, a well-known and respected ascetic. When he saw the water-carrying girl, a mere outcast, speaking so bluntly and arrogantly to him, his anger trembled within him. Struggling to restrain it, he said, "I have heard that the wealthy householder, Anathapindika, keeps a slave girl who refuses to accept her station. one who is often overbearing, rude, and conceited, named Punnika. With such sharp, biting speech, it must indeed be you, Punnika. But I will not take offense. Punnika, you know very well why I bathe in this water. I do so to cleanse defilement, to wash away all sins of body and mind. This is a sacred belief of the Brahmin tradition handed down from ancient times. So why, knowing this, do you pretend to ask? The way you question me, does it not sound as though you are challenging, even criticizing, the way I restrain evil and cultivate goodness through such practice? Anyone, old or young, who has formerly created unwholesome karma through body, speech, or mind, if they bathe regularly in this sacred mother river, will be freed from all evil deeds and all sins. Do you not know this? The girl suddenly burst into a giggle and said, Buffaloes and cattle bathe in the river far more often than you Brahmin ascetics do. So by now, all the buffaloes and cows along both banks of the Ganga must already be saints, mustn't they, Venerable Sir? Hearing the words buffaloes and cattle, Sathya trembled with rage. How dare you? Yes, I dare, she shot back. If you've been washing away your sins for so many years, then surely you must have become holy even before the cows and buffaloes. Venerable Sir, ascetic Sathya shook uncontrollably, cold and furious at the same time. Yet he found himself unable to answer such audacity. The girl laughed again, stretching the sound as if deliberately provoking him further. If an ascetic has truly become holy, then surely there would be no anger, no hatred left. But here you are, just the opposite. What does that prove? It proves that the belief that bathing in the river Ganga can wash away all sins is a mistaken and foolish faith. Sathya stood frozen, unable to respond. The girl pressed on. Water can cleanse the body, but it cannot cleanse the mind, Venerable Sir. The proof is right here. Your greed, your anger, your delusion remain exactly as they were. One must learn to move the mind a little, to think more rightly, truthfully, and deeply. Seeing that the ascetic had fallen silent and seemed to be listening, the girl slowly began to speak, almost as if delivering a teaching. My master, the householder Anathapindika, ever since he encountered the teachings of the Buddha Gautama, has given away nearly all of his wealth, and yet he is always smiling, joyful, generous. Greed, anger, and delusion in him seem to have nearly vanished. He is like a saint already. That is what true practice looks like. And what about you? You don't know how to practice at all. You just let that foolish river do the practicing for you, washing away your sins on your behalf. Wake up, come to your senses, abandon that deluded path, and practice according to the teachings of the Buddha Gautama. The weather was cold, the water icy, but the girl's heaven-striking, saint-shaking sermon made the Brahmin feel even colder, and because he felt colder, he awakened. Sometime later, he abandoned everything, requested ordination as a monk in the Blessed One's teaching, and eventually became an arahant. As for the girl, the other day, the householder Anathapindika summoned her and said, You have worked diligently and well for many years. Today, I declare that I release you from your status as a slave. From this day forward, how you arrange your life is entirely your own choice. I promise to help you in whatever way you decide. Master, she said, please allow me to go forth into the homeless life, just as you once freed the young man Dasaka from slavery and allowed him to ordain. The householder smiled with joy and nodded. Yes, he said warmly, You still remember Dasaka? The Blessed One praised him greatly. He has now become an arahant. And so, the girl was ordained. Sometime later, the bhikkhuna attained arahantship, complete with supernormal powers, spiritual mastery, and all four analytical knowledges. She used her eloquence and wisdom to subdue sharp-tongued followers of other sects, bringing the highest benefit to many beings. The other day, after resting and abiding in the bliss of meditation and the bliss of liberation, the bhikkhuna used the divine eye and psychic powers to review her distant past lives. She came to know that she had karmic connections with the fully enlightened ones, Vipas, Siku, Vesabu, Kakusanda, and Konagamana. She had once been a model bhikkhun asnur, radiant in moral conduct, strictly restrained, well-learned, deeply versed in the Dhamma and the Vinaya, teaching profound meanings with eloquence that flowed like clouds and water. Just as an echo from the past had declared, through practice, she became a bhikkhuna of great wisdom. Through much learning, she became a bhikkhuna of vast understanding. But because she regarded herself as greatly wise, because she saw herself as learned and brilliant, she gave rise to conceit and arrogance. She looked down upon elder monks who were less learned, despised, and belittled fellow practitioners as foolish and dull. Thus, being born into a lowly caste was the result of a latent conceit, embedded in her stream of karma, never fully eradicated. Because of this karma of arrogance, in this life, at the city of Savath, in the dispensation of the Blessed One Gautama, she was reborn among the outcast as a slave. Seeing clearly the causes and results across 3 lifetimes, the bhikkhuna softly recited a verse. Like the moon gently parting the veil of clouds to illuminate mountains, rivers, trees, and grasses below, conceit and arrogance, pride and self-importance, trusting in one's own cleverness, relying on one's own talents, despising others as foolish, scorning the world as mere dust. Thus one is born a slave, condemned to live as an outcast. What one sows, one surely reaps. The Dhamma is exactly so, true as it is, real as it stands. The arahant bhikkhun, once born into slavery, unconsciously curved her lips into a gentle smile, a smile born of insight, fragrant with the scent of wisdom and the perfume of liberation. The story of Punnika is not merely the story of a lowly fate being transformed, but a story of cause and effect, working silently, impartially, and never going astray. Born into the Chandala caste, Punnika bore every humiliation of a person regarded as less than human. Yet the deepest chain that bound her was not society's oppression, but the conceit that had lain dormant within her stream of karma from countless past lives. It was precisely this belief in her own superiority, in her understanding, her intelligence, her supposed wisdom, that led her through misguided lives, eventually crystallizing into the karmic result of a despised and rejected existence. And yet, it is at the very depths of suffering that wisdom finds the chance to be sharpened. From the mud, the lotus rises. Punnika shows us that water may cleanse the body, but only awareness can cleanse the mind. Not rituals, not outward forms, but the inward turning of the gaze, clearly seeing greed, hatred, and delusion, and letting go of conceit. This alone is the path that leads beings out of suffering. In the Buddha's teaching, there is no inherently low or high birth, no one condemned to remain forever in darkness. There is only a mind that is deluded or awakened. When the mind changes, karma changes. When the mind is illuminated, the path to liberation opens by itself. Punnika walked this path to its very end, from a slave girl carrying water, scorned and trampled upon, to one who awakened, and finally to a bhikkhuna arahant, absolutely free amid an impermanent world. The story ends there, but its reminder continues to echo. What is sown will surely be reaped. Karma never disappears. It merely waits for the right conditions to bear fruit. If today we are suffering, let us quietly look back into our own minds. If today we still carry arrogance, remember that conceit itself may be the seed of future suffering. To know when to stop, to cultivate humility, to return and illuminate oneself. This is the path the Buddha pointed out, and it is the very path that Punnika herself walked.